Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to see chapter 5, The Devoted Friends, written by Oscar. Last day we saw the summary of this chapter. Today we are going with the chapter explanation. Last day's class I already said that this story was said by a singing bird to a water rat and a duck. Water rat said that most important thing is to get a devoted friend. There, the singing bird is asking some doubts, but our water rat is not understanding anything. So that the singing bird is telling a story to make water rat understand about the singing bird's question. So the singing bird starts his story by saying, once upon a time, there was a kind and honest man named Hans. He lived alone in a tiny cottage and worked hard in his garden every day. In all the countryside, there was no garden as lovely as his. Flowers of all kinds blossomed under his touch and made the garden a thing of beauty. Their sweet fragrance filled the air. So, in this paragraph, we can understand that Hans, a little man, he is very kind and honest, and he is working in a garden, and that garden is very beautiful. There is no any other garden like this in that countryside. Little Hans had many friends, but his closest friend was Hung, the miller. Hung was so devoted to little Hans that he always stopped at the garden to pluck sweet herbs or fill his pocket with plums and cherries. Real friends should have everything in common, the miller liked to say. Hans nodded and smiled and felt very proud of having a friend with such noble ideas. In these paragraphs, we can understand the friendship between or the bond between Hans and Hans. According to Hung, a real friend should have everything in common. He should share everything. And Hans is very happy to have this friend. The neighbors thought it strange that the rich miller never gave Hans anything in return, though he had sacks of flour in his mill, 6 milk cows, and a large flock of sheep. The miller, Hans, is taking all the things from our Hans' garden. He always stops there and plucks some sweet herbs or fill his pocket with plums and cherries. But the neighbors doubt why this miller is not giving anything back to Hans, even though he is very rich and he got lots of things in his hand. Hans never worried about these things, though, and worked away happily in his garden through summer, winter, and autumn. During the time of winter, it is too hard for our Hans. When the winter comes, he had no fruits or flowers to bring to the market. He suffered from cold and hunger, eating only a few dried pears or some hard nuts for supper. He was also very lonely, as the miller, his best friend, never come to see him. The miller Hans said to his wife, "There is no good seeing little Hans now, for when people are in trouble, they should be left alone. That is my idea about friendship. I shall pay him a visit in spring. He will be able to give me a large basket of primroses that will make him happy." "You are certainly very thoughtful about others," agreed his wife, sitting in her comfortable armchair. "But could we not invite Hans here?" said the miller's youngest son. Then the miller said, "If he come here, son, and saw our warm fire and good supper, he might get envious. Envy is a most terrible thing, and leads people to temptation. He might ask for some flour on credit, and that I could not give. Flour is one thing, friendship is another. I will not allow Hans' nature to be spoiled. I am his best friend, and will always watch over him." Here, Hans, the miller's attitude is clear. He is a selfish guy. He is not bothered about Hans' suffering, and he is not considering him as his best friend too. The miller is considering Hans as his friend just for his personal needs. The miller was neither devoted to Hans nor was he thoughtful of others. He only visited Hans for his own selfish interests. The miller Hans took everything from Hans' pocket without paying anything. The flowers and the fruits, everything he took without credit, and he said that everything must be common among friends. But here he already said that I will not give him the floor, and I will not give him this warm fire and good supper. But his own son got some consideration. He is asking to his father, can we not invite him to our house? So this is a irony. From the same house, people with two attitude comes. When the primroses began to open after winter, the miller decided to see Hans. He went down the hill with a basket on his arm. Good morning, Hans. How have you been all winters? Miller asked. Hans said, I had rather a hard time, but now that spring has come, I am happy. We often talked of you during the winter, Hans, said the miller. Hans said, I am afraid you had forgotten me. Friendship never forgets, said the miller. Now, how lovely your primroses are looking. Indeed, said Hans. I am going to sell them and buy back my wheelbarrow with the money. Did you sell it? What a foolish thing to do, said the miller. Well, I had to. This winter I had no money to buy bread. I first sold the silver buttons on my Sunday coat, then my silver chain, and at last my wheelbarrow. But I am going to buy them all back again now, said Hans. Here, Hans is expressing his sad winter times. He sold all the things to buy bread, the silver buttons, the silver chain, and at last his wheelbarrow. That much hard it was for him. He suffered a lot in last winter. The rest of the chapter we will see in the next class. Thank you.